Once upon a time, there was a king who was the most powerful ruler in the whole world. Kind and just in peace, and terrifying in war, his enemies feared him while his subjects were happy and content. His wife and faithful companion was both charming and beautiful. From their union, a daughter was born. Their large and magnificent palace was filled with courtiers, and their stables boasted steeds large and small of every description. But what surprised everyone on entering these stables was that the place of honor was held by a donkey with 2 big ears. However, it was quite worthy of this position, for every morning, instead of dung, he dropped a great load of gold coins upon the litter. Now heaven, which seems to mingle good with evil, suddenly permitted a bitter illness to attack the queen. Help was sought on all sides, but neither the learned physicians nor the charlatans were able to arrest the fever which increased daily. Finally, her last hour having come, the queen said to her husband, "Promise me that if, when I am gone, you find a woman wiser and more beautiful than I, you will marry her and so provide an heir for the throne." Confident that it would be impossible to find such a woman, the queen thus believed her husband would never remarry. The king accepted his wife's conditions, and shortly thereafter she died in his arms. For a time, the king was inconsolable in his grief, both day and night. Some months later, however, on the urging of his courtiers, he agreed to marry again. But this was not an easy matter, for he had to keep his promise to his wife, and search as he might, he could not find a new wife with all the attractions he sought. Only his daughter had a charm and beauty even the queen had not possessed. Thus, only by marrying his daughter could he satisfy the promise he had made to his dying wife. And so he forthwith proposed marriage to her. This frightened and saddened the princess, and she tried to show her father the mistake he was making. Deeply troubled at this turn of events, she sought her fairy godmother, who lived in a grotto of coral and pearls. "I know why you have come here," her grandmother said. "In your heart there is a great sadness, but I am here to help you, and nothing can harm you if you follow my advice. You must not disobey your father, but first tell him that you must have a dress that has the color of the sky. Certainly he will never be able to meet that request." And so the young princess went all trembling to her father. But he, the moment he had heard her request, summoned his best tailors and ordered them, without delay, to make a dress the color of the sky, where they could be assured he would hang them all. The following day, the dress was shown to the princess. It was the most beautiful blue of heaven. Filled now with both happiness and fear, she did not know what to do, but her godmother again told her, "Ask for a dress the color of the moon. Surely your father will not be able to give you this." No sooner had the princess made the request than the king summoned his embroiderers and ordered that a dress the color of the moon be completed by the 4th day. On that very day it was completed, and the princess was again delighted with its beauty. But still her godmother urged her once again to make a request of the king, this time for a dress bright and shining as the sun. This time the king summoned a wealthy jeweler and ordered him to make a cloth of gold and diamonds, warning him that if he failed, he would die. Within a week, the jeweler had finished the dress, so beautiful and radiant that it dazzled the eyes of everyone who saw it. The princess did not know how to thank the king, but once again her godmother whispered in her ear, "Ask him for the skin of the donkey in the royal stable. The king will not consider your request seriously. You will not receive it, or I am badly mistaken." But she did not understand how extraordinary was the king's desire to please his daughter. Almost immediately, the donkey's skin was brought to the princess. Once again she was frightened, and once again her godmother came to her assistance. "Pretend," she said, "to give in to the king. Promise him anything he wishes, but at the same time prepare to escape to some far country. Here," she continued, "is a chest in which we will put your clothes, your mirror, the things for your toilet, your diamonds and other jewels. I will give you my magic wand. Whenever you have it in your hands, the chest will follow you everywhere, always hidden underground. Whenever you wish to open the chest, as soon as you touch the wand to the ground, the chest will appear. To conceal you, the donkey skin will be an admirable disguise. For when you are inside it, no one will believe that anyone so beautiful could be hidden in anything so frightful." Early in the morning, the princess disappeared as she was advised. They searched everywhere for her, in houses, along the roads, wherever she might have been, but in vain. No one could imagine what had become of her. The princess, meanwhile, was continuing her flight. To everyone she met, she extended her hands, begging her to find them some place where she might find work. But she looked so unattractive and indeed so repulsive in her Donkeyskin disguise that no one would have anything to do with such a creature. Farther and farther she journeyed until finally she came to a farm where they needed a poor wretch to wash the dishcloths and clean out the pig troughs. They also made her work in a corner of the kitchen, where she was exposed to the low jokes and ridicule of all the other servants. On Sundays she had little rest, for, having completed her morning tasks, she went to her room and closed the door and bathed. Then she opened her chest, took out her toilet jars and set them up, with the mirror before her. Having made herself beautiful once more, she tried on her moon dress, then that one which shone like the sun, and, finally, the lovely blue dress. Her only regret was that she did not have enough room to display their trains. She was happy, however, in seeing herself young again, and this pleasure carried her along from one Sunday to the next. On this great farm where she worked was an aviary belonging to a powerful king. All sorts of unusual birds with strange habits were kept there. The king's son often stopped at this farm on his return from the hunt, in order to rest and enjoy a cool drink with his courtiers. From a distance, Donkeyskin gazed on him with tenderness, and remembered that beneath her dirt and rags, she still had the heart of a princess. What grand manner he has, she thought. How gracious he is. How happy she must be to whom his heart is pledged. If he should give me a dress of only the simplest sort, I would feel more splendid wearing it than any of these which I have. One day the young prince, seeking adventure from courtyard to courtyard, came to the obscure hallway where Donkeyskin had her humble room. By chance, he put his eye to the keyhole. By chance. It was a feast day, and Donkeyskin had put on her dress of gold and diamonds which shone as brightly as the sun. The prince was breathless at her beauty, her youthfulness, and her modesty. 3 times he was on the point of entering her room, but each time he refrained. On his return to his father's palace, the prince became very thoughtful, sighing day and night and refusing to attend any of the balls and carnivals. He lost his appetite and finally sank into sad and deadly melancholy. He asked who this beautiful maiden was that lived in such squalor, and was told that it was Donkeyskin, the ugliest animal one could find, except the wolf, and a certain cure for love. This he would not believe, and refused to forget what he had seen. His mother the queen begged him to tell her what was wrong. Instead he moaned, wept, and sighed. He would say nothing except that he wanted Donkeyskin to make him a cake with her own hands. Oh heavens, they told her. This Donkeyskin is only a poor drab servant. It makes no difference, replied the queen. We must do as he says. It is the only way to save him. So Donkeyskin took some flour which she had ground especially fine, and some salt and some butter and some fresh eggs, and shut herself alone in the room to make the cake. But first she washed her face and hands and put on a silver smock, in honor of the task she had undertaken. Now the story goes, working perhaps a little too hastily, that fell from Donkeyskin's finger into the batter a ring of great value. Some who know the outcome of this story think that she may have dropped the ring on purpose, and they are probably right. For when the prince stopped at her door and looked through the keyhole, she must have known it, and she was sure that the ring would be received most joyfully by her lover. The prince found the cake so good that in his ravishing hunger he almost swallowed the ring. When he saw the beautiful emerald and the band of gold which traced the shape of Donkeyskin's finger, his heart was filled with an indescribable joy. At once he put the ring under his pillow, but his illness increased daily until finally the doctors, seeing him grow worse, bravely concluded that he was sick with love. Marriage, whatever may be said against it, is an excellent remedy for love sickness. And so it was decided that the prince was to marry. But I insist, he said, that I will wed only the person who this ring fits. The unusual demand surprised the king and queen very much, but the prince was so ill that they did not dare object. A search began for whoever might be able to fit the ring on her finger, no matter what the station in life. It was rumored throughout the land that in order to win the prince, one must have a very slender finger. Every charlatan had his method of making the finger slim. One suggested scraping as though it were a turnip. Another recommended cutting away a small piece. Still another, with a strange liquid, planned to decrease the size by removing the skin. At last trials began with the princesses, the marquesses, and the duchesses. But their fingers, although delicate, were too big for the ring. Then the countesses, the baronesses, and all the nobility presented their hands, but all in vain. Next came the working girls, who often have slender and beautiful fingers, but the ring would not fit them either. Finally, it was necessary to turn to the servants, kitchen help, the slayers, and the poultry keepers, with their red and dirty hands. Putting the tiny ring on their clumsy fingers was like trying to thread a big rope through the eye of a needle. At last the trials were finished. There remained only Donkeyskin in her far corner of the farm kitchen. Who could dream that she ever would be queen? "And why not?" asked the prince. "Ask her to come here." At that some started to laugh. Others cried out against bringing that frightful creature into the room. But when she drew out from under the Donkeyskin a little hand as white as ivory, and the ring was placed on her finger and fitted perfectly, everyone was astounded. They prepared to take her to the king at once, but she asked that before she appeared before her lord and master, she be permitted to change her clothes. To tell the truth, there was some smiling at this request, but when she arrived at the palace in her beautiful dress, the richness of which had never been equaled, with her blonde hair all alight with diamonds, and her blue eyes sweet and appealing, and her waist so slender that 2 hands could have encircled it, then even the greatest ladies of the court seemed, by comparison, to have lost all their charms. In all this happiness and excitement, the king did not fail to notice the charms of his prospective daughter-in-law, and the queen was completely delighted with her. The prince himself found happiness almost more than he could bear. Preparations for the wedding were to begin at once, and kings of all the surrounding countries were to be invited. Some came from the east, mounted on huge elephants. Others were so fierce-looking that they frightened the little children. From all the corners of the world they came and descended on the court in great numbers. But neither the prince nor any of the visiting kings appeared in such splendor as the bride's father, who now recognized his daughter and begged for forgiveness. "How kind heaven is," he said, "to let me see you again, my dear daughter." Weeping with joy, he embraced her tenderly. His happiness was shared by all, and the future husband was delighted to see that his father-in-law was such a powerful king. At that moment, the fairy godmother arrived, and told the whole story of what had happened, and what she had to tell added the final triumph for Donkeyskin. So basically, she went and told the whole thing from the beginning, and then we get a circle, and that's the end. Wah!